going to be allowed to live. I had to prove that I was worth sparing. I said that the prototype was useless without me, that only I knew how to control its energies. If they killed me, the prototype would become unstable. It would destroy the targ and everything in it, including every last one of them. Gunzar suspected I was bluffing, but he dared not take the chance that I could be telling the truth. He had me placed in this chamber and put me in charge of that dreadful creature, that Vordak. Oh, put me in the charge of that Vordak. It tortured me, but I did not break. Then it tortured my mind. Her eyes wander erratically for a moment. You watch as she strives to regain her focus, to continue her harrowing account of what came next. It got inside my mind. I have never felt such pain before. It saw my innermost thoughts, my memories, my doubts, and my deepest fears. It rejoiced when it discovered the resentment I still had for you, for not arriving in time to prevent Gunzar's attack on my village and kinfolk. Leandra stopped speaking. Instinctively, you are moved by her pain, but you urge her to continue no matter how difficult it may be. It takes her some time before she finds the will to speak again. The Vordak took my resentment and played upon it. It made me hate you. It was like a disease that it planted inside my head, and it began eating into my mind. The fiend was determined to corrupt my true feelings and enslave me. I was made to think like them. I was being made to hate you, hate myself, hate everything I am and ever was. Her words are difficult for you to bear. Did she succumb to the Vordak's willful and evil violation of her mind? Or was she already minded to betray you and everything she had ever held dear? Her father, her kinfolk, her country? Was she already committed to helping the enemy long before she came here, to aid them in the fulfillment of their evil schemes and that would ultimately doom Sommerlund to destruction? Is she the victim of her own misguided genius and her ambition despite the grief it has caused? Or has she really been a traitor all along? I'm gonna have to ask. Shit. You want to know what Leandra was trying to accomplish with her crazy plan. She has never shown any real trust to you, never listened to you or obeyed you, even when you were trying hard to save her life. Why should you believe her now? What were you so desperate to oh my god. What were you so desperate to convince it of, Leandra? You try hard to mask it, but there is a tinge of bitterness in your voice. She recognizes it at once, and it hits her like a clenched fist. What in the name of Isha were you really up to? Please tell me the truth. Why did you come to Vatag? As harsh as it may sound, you do not attempt to mask your doubt and suspicions. Was it truly your insane need to retrieve your prototype that made you come here? Was that the only reason you decided to help me when I arrived in Rockstarn? Leandra shakes her head and exhales in exasperation. I knew you'd never understand. Can't you see? Can't you understand even the tiniest part of what I am and what I really feel? It's because of you that I finally came to realize that my need to create and my unquenchable thirst for knowledge has consequences. All my experiments, my mechanical inventions, the prototype. I want these things to bring about only good things for everyone in Sommerlund. But everything I've done has gone wrong and put everyone in danger. She turns her head away and begins to sob. A solitary tear trickles down her cheek and splashes into your hand. Everyone that's died, their blood is on my hands. Her words challenge your doubts and soften your view. You sense that her remorse is genuine and sincere. I've been afraid to admit the truth, she says, trying hard to control her emotions. Even though I've suspected it ever since the attack on my village, in the Shanty tunnels, I had it proven to me beyond doubt. I can no longer deny it. I'm responsible for everything that's happened. The attack on Rockstarn, the death of so many innocent people, and all of the dangers that you faced since your arrival in the village. How can that be? You reply, trying to set aside your lingering suspicions. You didn't make Gunzar raid your village, Leandra. No, not deliberately. But I may as well have drawn him a map and sent him an invitation. She is consumed with remorse. My prototype, my wonderful device, my great invention, my foolish pride. The prototype contains and radiates the same energy as your Shanty cube. Its source of power is identical, and the sorcerers of Helgadad have been studying it as I had. They knew what it meant and how to recognize it, and my prototype was a bright beacon for them to follow. She slowly raises her tear-stained face and holds you with her bloodshot eyes. They are filled with pain and regret. Gunzar and the Vordak, they sensed its presence in Rockstarn. The Vordak tortured me, it revealed this to me. It is the only reason they raided Rockstarn. They wanted it for themselves. At the same time, they couldn't know exactly what to look for, or where. So they came and they massacred the whole village, and took everything they could lay their filthy hands on. Her body falls limp in your arms, and she begins to sob uncontrollably. Everyone is dead because of me. I had to come here to make things right again. You draw her closer and try to comfort her as best you can. You can no longer bring yourself to believe that she's a traitor to her people and to your homeland. You said that you had to convince the Vordak, you say in as soothing a voice as you can muster. Convince it of what? They were looking for me, remember? That Vordak could boast as much as it wanted, but it had not been able to crack the secrets of the prototype on its own. I wanted them all to believe I would assist them, but the truth is that I had no intention of ever helping them at all. In fact, the opposite is true. I'd made up my mind to destroy them with it. I knew that so long as my real intention was kept secret from them, they'd not run the risk of killing me only to have it go out of control and lay everything to waste. And did they let you have the prototype, you say? They let me work on it for an hour or so, but the Vordak watched me closely and I was unable to fix it so that it would overload. She wipes away her tears on the shredded sleeve of her jacket and she forces herself to smile. Then she looks at you squarely in the eye and tilts her head slightly, prompting you to say something. Well, she says, I've done all I can, now it's your turn. Before you can say anything, Leandra begins to cough and shudder. She closes her eyes for a few moments and tries to maintain her composure. I knew you were in Vitag. Everyone knew. The news of the fighting on the lower levels had swept through the upper tower like wildfire. I was sure they'd never be able to stop you from finding me. I just had to hold on until you got here, and even if you did not, I still had to believe you would. You are a trained Kai Lord with kind disciplines, and you are armed with the mighty Sommersword. For you to face the perils of the terrible place is an act of duty, but Leandra, she has fought her own battles, and bravely so. But armed only with her wits and her courage to see her through, it has come as an unexpected surprise to discover that she was prepared to enter Vitag and seek to destroy her precious device, rather than permit the enemy to keep it. And she knew full well that she would likely never get out of this tower alive. You remember something you had overlooked when you first entered this chamber. Look what I found, you say as you reach around your back, and slip your hand under your cloak. You unhook her crossbow and pass it to her. She gives a hoarse laugh as she leans forward to take it. Fondly, she runs fingertips over its chipped woodwork and scratched fittings. It is in no better shape than I am at the moment, eh? You'll mend, you reply reassuringly. Deep down, you are strong as Sommerlunding oak, and just as resilient. Again, she laughs. Despite the discomfort of this icy chamber, and the trepidation you feel in anticipation of the fight you must yet bring to its cruel commander, you cannot help but be impressed by the fortitude of this gifted and brave young woman. Then you hear something that sets your pulse racing. It is the sound of heavy-booted footfalls on the tower roof, directly above this chamber. It's him, gasps Leandra. It's Gunzar. I'd know the sound of his footsteps anywhere. You stand up and steel yourself for the coming battle with Warlord Gunzar. You now know where he is, but you do not know how to reach the roof and confront him. Your eye falls upon a door in the far wall that you have not noticed before. You begin to approach it, but Leandra calls out a warning. No, not that way. That door leads to the Vordak's torture chamber. She shivers at the thought of the pain she endured in this terrible place. You move a little closer to examine the door, but you are brought to an abrupt halt by a wave of fatigue that washes through you like a black tide. You fall to your knees and struggle to regain your strength. Leandra says something, but her anxious words swirl around in your head and you cannot clearly understand what she is saying. You know that you must fight this sudden weakness and confusion, for it is threatening to defeat you before the final combat with Gunzar has ever begun. Not even begun. You draw upon your Kai powers and enter into a deep state of meditation. The chamber dissolves around you, and you feel yourself plummeting into a vortex of total darkness. At length, the sensation of falling recedes, and you find yourself on your knees in your nightmare once more. Did you think you could defeat us? Did you think you could destroy us? Did you think you could send us away? The dark spectres appear again, moving and speaking in unison. We have always been here. We are the shadows of your light. The Darkands and his Shanti amulet did not create us. We have always been here, watching you, waiting to eclipse you, child of the sun. The spectres... what? Coalesce into a chillingly familiar figure that is filled with malevolence. It is the summation of all your doubts and fears, all the weaknesses and failures that have haunted you since early childhood. Your long and perilous journey to Vitag has forced you to confront your limitations in so many ways. Now the insidious power of the Shanti amulet has brought you face to face with your inner demons. We are strong. The Shade's voices have merged into a single sibilant whisper that scratches your mind, and our time has come. The time has come indeed, you reply, projecting your retort without the need to give voice to your words. Defiantly, you rise to your feet in eager readiness to do battle with this horror that haunts your mind. The time has come to put an end to this. Sure. I can do that. This will be a particularly testing combat. This is not a fight to the death against a Darklands foe, it's a fight to the finish with an opponent that originates and lurks in your psyche. If you are to survive, you must control and conquer your innermost fears and doubts. This conflict is all about confronting and defeating the darkness that lies within. You stand your ground as the Shade attacks, parrying and dodging its strikes without seeking to counterattack. You should remain on the defensive, watching and learning from how this fell entity behaves. With each attack you successfully block and avoid, so you will take one step closer to defeating it. The Shade leaves an opening for you to exploit, and you do so to full effect. You strike precisely at the optimum moment and wound it deeply. Now that you know how best to defeat it, you shall exploit your combat advantage to the full. But it's still a fight with myself. So, yeah. I'm fighting myself again. Hooray! Is he using mace? A mace this time? He is! I figured, because he started out with a sword, and now he's got a mace. No, he started out with a sword, then he got an axe, and now he has a mace. Like, that was obvious. Yeah, I'll use this. Only because it's only one opponent. Whoosh! Wow! Dude, you got knocked on your ass. Shit, doing this is a bad idea. Yeah, because it heals us both, but it also heals the Shade. Which I need to remember. Ooh. That did nowhere near as much damage to me. So I'm at, what, 3178. Ah. 3178 to 2606. So it took off 572? Basically half. Like, the damage I'm doing to the Shade is I receive half of that damage. That was an easy combat. Mostly because I actually had full endurance for some reason. With your climactic blow, the Shade falls to its knees and cowers in defeat. It is unarmed, its weapon has vanished from sight. The Shade's dark outline begins to dissolve and fade back into the swirling maelstrom of your emotions and interferes from whence it came. You say nothing as you watch your defeated enemy being consumed by its own darkness. You feel no hatred for or triumphs over it. You accept the Shade for what it is, an integral part of your inner self. The amulet's insidious hold over you has finally been broken. The grip it had maintained on your mind has been shattered. The Nightmare Monastery rapidly recedes and is replaced by the icy walls of the chamber in Batag. You emerge from your trance to find yourself looking directly into Leandra's anxious eyes. She reacts out to help you to stand up, but your strength has fully returned and you are able to rise to your feet with ease. You feel refreshed and restored, both in mind and body. Defeating your inner Shade has won you a wholeness you have not felt for a long time, not since before the massacre of your fellow Kai. However, Leandra is not so fortunate. She is sadly still badly shaken from her dreadful ordeal at the Vordak's hands and her subsequent confinement in this freezing wind-lashed chamber. You check your weapons and equipment. They have deteriorated as a result of the many fights you have fought and won in Vatag. You are worried that they may fail you in the final fight with Gunzar. Once more your gaze falls upon the adjoining door that leads to the Vordak's torture chamber. Here you may find the tools you need to fix your gear before you undertake the final battle. Despite Leander's protestations, you open the door and step into the room beyond. You are immediately struck by the unexpected warmth of this chamber. A small forge stands in the far corner, its crimson coal glowing dimly. In the center of the room, there is a large table. Its surface stained black with dried blood. Thick leather straps are fixed to the four corners of this gruesome furnishing betray the purpose of which it was put there. It is a torture chamber. Table, not chamber. Table. On the walls are racked scores of instruments of grim design and ghastly purpose. Tongs, pincers, claws, flails, barbed whips, and many other accoutrements of agony. There are also devices you have never seen before. They are the tools of the Vardak's cruel art, brought here with him all the way from Helgadad, the terrifying city of the Dark Lords. Your stomach churns with fear and revulsions as you cast your eyes upon them. Nauseated by what you see, you turn your head away towards the forge. The warmth it radiates is the only comfort to be found in this room. It is a testament to the pain that Leandra was forced to endure in this place. that she chose to remain in the icy chamber rather than seek shelter from the cold winds by returning here. Beside the forge stands a workbench that is littered with more common and mundane artifacts. They are blacksmithing tools. There is everything you need to effect repairs to your weapons and equipment before you face Gunzai in the final battle. Did you find what you were looking for in that dreadful room? Asks Leandra. Yes, now let's make my way up to the roof, you reply. Leandra is clearly in no fit state to accompany you in the final confrontation with Warlord Gunzai.